What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Sunday, August 23rd. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. Let's take a look at this 4-game main slate. At the point guard position, I like Kemba Walker from the Boston Celtics playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards. Kemba Walker has averaged 34.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He finally broke out last game. He scored 48 fantasy points in 35 minutes. He's projected at 36 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.8 times value. He's $7,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $600 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 214 points scored in this game, so I like Kemba Walker here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay, let's take a look at a value play at the point guard position. I like Shake Milton from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards. Shake Milton, he's only averaged 16.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing 20 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. But he scored 30 fantasy points in 37 minutes last game, and he's projected at 23.3 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.2 times value, because he's only $4,500 FanDuel salary and $100 less on DraftKings. So we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 214 points scored in this game. So I like Shake Milton here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Fred VanVleet from the Toronto Raptors playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have the 11th worst defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Fred VanVleet has averaged 36.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. Take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 38, 46, and 57 fantasy points in his last 3 games. He's projected at 39 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5 times value. He's $7,800 FanDuel salary and $100 less on DraftKings. So I like Fred VanVleet here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, another shooting guard that I like is Josh Richardson from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Josh Richardson has averaged 24.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He's projected at 26.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $5,300 FanDuel salary and $100 less on DraftKings. So I like Josh Richardson here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, who do we have at the small forward position? I like Kawhi Leonard from the LA Clippers playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have the 13th worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Kawhi Leonard has averaged 47.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 66, 50, and 58 fantasy points in his last 3 games. He's playing between 38 and 40 minutes, and he's projected at 51.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $10,000 FanDuel salary and $200 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 232 points scored in this game, so I like Kawhi Leonard here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Another small forward I like is Tim Hardaway Jr. from the Dallas Mavericks playing the LA Clippers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's averaged 23.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 31, 27, and 29 fantasy points, playing 38, 37, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 28.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,600 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. We know Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game, 232 points in this game, so I like Tim Hardaway Jr. here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Marcus Morris from the LA Clippers playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have the 13th worst defense overall, and they've been pretty good versus opposing power forwards. Marcus Morris has averaged 26.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 28, 32, and 39 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing between 32 and 35 minutes. He's projected at 27.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 5,300 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. So I like Marcus Morris here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Another power forward that I like here is Jeremiah Grant from the Denver Nuggets playing the Utah Jazz, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing power forwards. Jeremiah Grant has averaged 21.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He's projected at 23.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 4,700 FanDuel salary, but he's 400 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. So I like Jeremiah Grant here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets playing the Utah Jazz, who have a good defense overall, but they give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Nikola Jokic has averaged 44.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He's projected at 46.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 9,200 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 217.5 points scored in this game, so I like Nikola Jokic here versus the Utah Jazz. The other center that I like, he's been playing really well in the playoffs. I like Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing centers. Rudy Gobert has averaged 39.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He scored 43, 37, and 44 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's projected at 41.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 8,000 FanDuel salary and 200 less on DraftKings. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 217.5 points scored in this game, so I like Rudy Gobert here versus the Denver Nuggets. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.